step back. Great. For those of you who I haven't met before, I'm Anne Marie Hart Bookbinder. I'm the Director of Food Security Programs here at the Food Council. I am helping out facilitate today as Elizabeth Tuin of our team is on some much deserved vacation time this week. So happy to be with you all today. Just wanted to share a few quick announcements before we get into the call. First of all, I did want to note that when we meet again, it will be Food Waste Prevention Week on October 1st. So Food Waste Prevention Week, excuse me, runs from September 28th through October 4th. There is a webinar that our own Carol Jones will be participating in on the Maryland Recycling Network, Strategies for Success on September 30th. I'll share that information and the registration, or Beta will, thank you, in the chat. And we also wanted to make you aware that the Food Council, in partnership with Nourish Now, we're going to be hosting a food waste prevention site week on October 1st, which will also include a happy hour. So we're going to be touring Nourish Now that afternoon, followed by a happy hour at Clear Skies Meadery to celebrate the volunteers that make food recovery in Montgomery County possible. So hope to see many of you there. Our second announcement is going to help us lead right into our first presentation today. So as many of you may know, the Food Council was awarded a grant from the US EPA's Green and Healthy Homes Initiative to better understand how food assistance providers experience and engage with food recovery efforts across Montgomery County, particularly the systems and the infrastructure that helps get surplus food to community members. As part of this process, we've been interviewing retailers, wholesalers, restaurants. We've conducted a survey of food assistance providers, thanks to many of you who completed in that, and are conducting a focus group of clients to better understand food recovery in the county. Through this project, we are developing a community-wide picture of Montgomery County's food recovery landscape. We aim for this project to identify critical gaps, elevate what's working, and especially relevant today, unlock new opportunities for collaboration, funding, and resource alignment to strengthen the entire system. So stay tuned for the full release of findings next month, which we plan to be culminating in a celebration and community discussion on September 24th. We'll have more information about that to follow. But to kick us off with some preliminary findings of our food assistance provider survey, we are happy to welcome Carol Jones, one of our Food Council members, and who has been a contractor for leading this work. So I'm going to turn things over to Carol and have her share what she has learned so far. Thanks, Carol.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And while Vita is loading the slides, let me just acknowledge contributions to the survey and to the analysis. First of all, thank you to all the food assistance providers who answered the survey, many of whom are on the call. We really appreciate that. We had a whole Food Council team that was involved in designing the survey. Anne Marie was responsible for sending out the survey and sending reminders to folks. And Ellie Beckerman was responsible for coordinating the development of the survey and programming the survey, and she did 90% of the cleaning of the survey. Now, sadly, we said goodbye to Ellie last week as she headed off to Ann Arbor to go to law school. But she did amazing work on the project for the 7 months that she was here. I'm going to apologize in advance for my voice. I've been taking my asthma medications, and though it may actually be helping my breathing, it is not helping my throat. So I'm not sure where I put my cough drops, but I've got tea here. Okay, next slide, please. So just really quickly, here's an outline of what I want to do. I want to talk about how we went about defining the population to send the survey to, the size classes in our grouping, and the response rates. And then I'm going to, time is short today, so I'm going focus on findings that are particularly relevant to our conversation today. But we'll start out with talking about recovered foods, what the contributions are of that, what the challenges are, and then access to storage and vehicles by agencies, and some of the challenges and expressed potential that respondents shared with us in the survey. Next slide. So to develop the population of food assistance agencies, we compiled names from a lot of different sources. You can see there of FASAR grantees, are the Food Council's Food Assistance Resource Map agencies, Capital Area Food Banks shopping partners, Chow Match recipients of food. And that generated 193 sites where food is being distributed. And that's surely not everybody, but that was a good effort in terms of identifying the population out there. So to identify the population to send the survey, however, we dropped agencies that don't process food in their own facility, and we dropped distribution partners of Manna and Nourish Now, and also a lot of schools and shelters where So What Else distributes its food. Next slide, please. So we ended up with a population of 92 agencies to whom we sent the survey. So among that group, we identified 4 large food recovery agencies, and they'll be very familiar to you there. So What Else, Rainbow, Manna, and Nourish Now. So that meant we had an additional 88 food assistance agencies that received the survey, and we categorized them by size, small, medium, and large. We didn't have full data on any of the factors, so we had to use some judgment, but the factors that we used are listed there: hours open to food assistance clients, staff, budget, and volunteer hours. Next slide, please. So our overall response rate was 54%. We have 50 respondents whose information we are compiling. And you can see the counts in the upper part of the table and the response rates in the lower part of the table, because we hypothesized that the experience is different depending upon your size, and of course, whether or not you're actually a major food recovery organization. We stratified the sample in that way to look at what the response rates are. And you can see that the response rates are higher among the large food assistance providers, and is 100% among the large food recovery organizations. I also have on here information about the interviews. As a number of you know, as a number of you experienced, we also interviewed a small sample of agencies to get more in-depth information. Our numbers were constrained by OMB survey restrictions. Next slide, please. So we asked agencies what type of food, what are the sources of food that you receive to distribute to your clients. And you told us that recovered food is used by many of you. In fact, 3/4 use recovered food in some form. So 60% directly recover food from donors, and 66% receive indirect recoveries, that is, recoveries from a food recovery organization that directly received the food from a donor. So an indirect recovery would be something that you receive from So What Else or Nourish Now. There's extensive overlap between direct and indirect recovery. Most of those that directly recover their own food also receive indirect recovered food. And 20% receive only indirectly recovered food among those who are receiving recovered food. So the use of recovered food is universal among large food recovery organizations. That's kind of a duh. but it's consistently high among all other food assistance providers. So bottom line here is recovered food is very widely used. Next slide. But it supplies a small share of the total food volume. So the largest food source, so we asked about 6 different food sources. Commercial food purchases was the largest. From a food bank was the next largest. And direct and indirect recovery are relatively small. Community donations were slightly larger than indirect recovery, and the 6th was gardening, and that was very, very small. So you can see the numbers of the medians on the left-hand side. So the median is the point in the distribution where half of the agencies received a greater share from that particular food source, and half received less than that. So you can see the medians there. But a picture is worth 100 words, 1,000 words. So the picture is a little complicated, but if you understand it, I think it's very powerful. So this is a box plot, and you can see on the horizontal axis the labeling for the different food sources, and the vertical axis is the percent of their food that they get from that particular source. So the box shows the range between the 25th percentile and the 75th percentile. So that's 25% are smaller shares than the bottom of the box, and 25% are larger shares. So it's a really nice way of capturing the range. And the line in the middle is the median, which you have the numbers for. So I think the visual is very clear there, that though many receive it, the shares are relatively low. Now, it's called a box and whisker plot, and you have a few outliers, which are the individual points. So there's outliers that receive very large shares of directly recovered food and indirectly recovered food, but the bulk of the population is receiving less. Next slide, please. So we asked among non-adopters of recovered food if they were interested in learning more, and 9 of the 13 agencies said that they did want to learn more. We didn't explicitly ask why they weren't doing recovery, but some offered the answer that we are serving medically compromised clients, and so we need to know fully the provenance of the food. Next slide, please. So we asked, what do you value recovered food for? And variety was valued more than volume. So about 3/4 answered yes to the question, recovered food is important for ensuring a diversity of valued foods. About half said it's important to ensuring quantity of food. And 43% said, well, it's a nice benefit, but it really doesn't significantly affect the quantity or quality of food that they provide. And this view is mainly held by the smaller and medium-sized food assistance providers. Next slide. So we asked about food quality problems, and you told us that quality issues are common, but rarely severe. 5%, or rarely frequent, I guess I should say. 5% said it's very frequent. 8% said never, and sometimes and rarely, are in the middle there. It won't surprise you that leafy greens and less hardy vegetables are the clearest pressure point. I thought it was interesting that 68% of the agency received those frequently, and Almost all of them reported frequent quality issues for them. Less hardy fruits show a similar pattern. But other high volume categories hold up well. Hardy fruits and vegetables, bakery products, meat, dairy, eggs, and shelf staple items. Next slide. So we asked, how do you address it when you have quality problems? And you told us that you use multiple strategies. 79% salvage what's usable. There is an attitude, look, this is recovered food. We recognize, that it's not going to be perfect, and we're going to have to glean the good from the bad. So then the bad, 50% use their own resources to compost it, 50% use their own resources to throw it out, 9% return to donor, and 3% repurpose it into an edible product. We asked, do you tell the donors when you have a problem? And a little over half said, yes, we do, but that is more common the larger the agency. Next slide, please. So we laid out 7 challenges that we had heard about, and from past conversations, and asked whether or not this was a problem for you, whether it was a major problem, medium problem, minor, or not at all. So transportation and storage, you told us, are the most challenging. Lack of vehicles, 36% major, about half major, and medium. Lack of storage was a little bit behind that. In the middle, mismatch between when donations are available and when you're doing your distributions was cited 18% of the time as a major. Also, not enough staff or volunteers, too much competition for donors. And then the least challenging was don't know how to cultivate donors or mismatch with client preferences. Several people did comment that there's an issue with culturally relevant foods, that we do not get those in food recoveries. We have to buy them for the most part. Some other comments noting consistent deliveries are difficult, even with regular donors, when staff turnover is high, which occurs in grocery stores, and buy-in from upper management is lacking. And another comment was, we get more recovered food during the growing season. Next slide, please. So we asked, how do you do your transportation? No single method dominates. Donors are important for delivering for more than half. Obviously, people do multiple methods here. Volunteers use their own vehicles, more than half. Staff or volunteers drive vehicles that are owned or rented by the agency, and partner organizations arrange transport. Those are also about half. So by partner organizations, the references to Capillary Food Bank or Food Rescue DC or Chow Match. So here we do see a difference across the size classes. Small agencies lean hardest on donor deliveries and volunteers. Personal vehicles, the larger agencies are more likely to use their own vehicles. Next slide, please.
Sorry, Carol.
Yes.
Lorian noted we're at time for the presentation. Is there, I know you only have a little bit left, but if there's one in particular you wanted to jump to highlight?
Yes. Let's jump ahead to vehicles and storage sharing challenges. Yeah, so a number of you, so agencies that said we had vehicles or storage at least once a week were asked about whether they were willing to share. And a portion of those agencies said yes. But the important points that came out there: willingness exists, but it's conditional. It's important to establish safeguards and protocols to create accountability. Lack of predictability of availability is a barrier. So we need to treat capacity as time windowed, not permanently available. For vehicle sharing, there need to be clear agreements around liability and insurance coverage, driver authorization, and for storage, comments were we need to have good food safety standards, clear coordination and scheduling, and access control to the facilities and accountability. So I think that's a perfect lead in to the next presentations. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. And thank you, Carol. If there's anyone who has any questions, again, these are preliminary results. And if you may have noticed on the slides, Carol asks, that's not something that has been published and put out yet. So, no citing that information just yet. This is just to kind of give you a taste of what is coming later in September. But please feel free if you have any questions to put them in the chat. We want to move along because we have a really great conversation. And like Carol said, this is a great segue. You brought up a lot of very relevant points around concerns around sharing. And so we have this wonderful opportunity for 3 members of our community who are sharing, some items currently and how that's going to give you a sense of what that looks like and the challenges they've experienced. I'm going to pass it over to Lorian to introduce our speakers. Thank you.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, and I know this is a perfect segue because I know this is an idea that's always talked about, right? Like, how do we share? Because obviously, the will to share is there among our community, and we all know that we're stronger together. Well, how do we find models of how to get over these challenges and share this equipment? And that's why we, the Food Council, sort of were racking our brain, and we turned to obviously the agricultural community, and the food and beverage business community has a number of great examples on how they share equipment. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Natalia Salazar, Business Development Specialist at Montgomery County Office of Agriculture. And it has been a pleasure to partner with her on the MoCo Micro Hub, where we have some shared equipment that farmers use. I'll let her explain that. But she has a wonderful model, and we hope that you all will sort of learn from the model and that we can sort of get our juices flowing, creative juices flowing on how to share equipment among this community of food assistance providers. So Natalia, if you would, can you share your slides?
Yeah.
Okay.
Right now it's not showing up as a window, but I think if I just do share entire screen, that might work.
Great.
So I think everyone can see. Is it okay? Like a good size for everyone?
Perfect, Natalia.
Okay. So good afternoon, everyone. Again, I'm Natalia Salazar with the County Office of Agriculture. And like Lorian was saying, we operate a refrigerated outdoor container that farmers are able to use to store their meats, produce, eggs, and dairy here at the Agricultural History Farm Park, which is where our office is located. You can see here in the picture, this is what it looks like. This unit was purchased with the help of the Montgomery County Food Council. They got a grant from the Greater Washington Community Foundation. Specifically, I think it came from Washington Gas. It was a really great grant that they were able to obtain that paid for this entire unit plus some other things that were needed to set this unit up. It is a used shipping container, which afforded some savings for us, but it functions very well as a refrigerated space for fresh farm products. And here you can see where we're located in Durwood. So we're kind of in the suburbs of Montgomery County, not terribly far from quite a lot of farms, so it's a pretty convenient location for the farmers. And here you can see from the front, when you first open the unit, this is a diagram that shows you what it looks like. We have shelves on the left wall, and we have open floor space on the right. so that farmers, if they have bigger boxes, they can use the floor space. But we've got 16 shelves set up on the left side wall. We have them labeled very clearly. We have them by stack or by column. There are shelves 1, 2, 3, and 4, and then within each of these units, there are levels. There are 4 levels. From top to bottom is A, B, C, and D. And we have designated the top shelf for fresh produce, specifically those that produce more of the ethylene, the ones that make fruit ripen. And the second level is also produce. Third level is reserved for eggs and dairy, and the fourth level at the bottom is for the meats, and that's just following food safety protocols. So this refrigerated space is available to all county farmers that are producing food products. And the way that we manage the space is through an app called Food Corridor that Food Council purchased using the grant they received. It is an app that's actually designed for shared use kitchen space. It was set up by Ivie Baker here on the call. He was very helpful in getting us started with this. He had the prior experience with this app. And so we set up our cold storage unit as a kitchen on this app. The farmers have to just create an account. It's very straightforward. They apply to become a client at this kitchen, and we approve them as a client. We ask them to upload their signed user agreement to their account, and then they're able to see what space is available and can request space. And we're able to deny or approve each reservation. Here there's a little screenshot showing the farms that are clients on this system. This is from our point of view as administrators. And here's a view of the calendar for a particular day. That you can see which spaces have already been reserved and which ones that therefore are available still. We also have some equipment that farmers can borrow for free that comes with this cold storage unit. It's 2 hand trucks, 2 devices that help them transport their boxes, and 2 curb ramps that help them move the ramps over a curb. And Food Corridor luckily lets us list this equipment, and it lets the farmers reserve it as well. So it makes it very easy. To provide security, we have the units locked with a combination lock, and we only provide access to farmers who are using it to store their products, and to people like volunteers that work for a food assistance provider that are picking up the product from the farmer. So it has to have been prearranged by the farmer for a certain volunteer to come pick it up. And we allow those volunteers to go into the unit and pick the product that they were assigned to collect. We have had so far manna volunteers picking up, because the farmers using our cold storage unit at the moment some of them are selling to manna. So it's worked pretty well, I think. We have some obviously we have rules that we ask the farmers to abide by to make sure that product isn't lost, someone doesn't mistakenly take product that they weren't supposed to. So we ask them to label all containers clearly. Obviously they should use only the space that they have reserved. They should clear that space before the end of the reservation period. And if they make any messes, there's a broom in there. We ask them to clean up after themselves. Right now, the unit is available for free to farmers, but we do reserve the right to charge them a nominal fee in the future if we need to, if our budget doesn't allow us to pay for the yearly maintenance that we have to do on the cold storage unit, or any cleaning, any deep cleaning that we need to do. But so far, we have not charged any farmers. And the unit has been in operation for about 2 years now, but the use started off slowly. When we first opened it up, we only had 1 farmer using it. He luckily was able to purchase his own cold storage unit after a while, so he stopped using it. But now we have 4 produce farmers using it, and so really the use did not ramp up until about a year ago or 6 months ago. So we haven't really learned any lessons yet from all of this. But so far, it seems to be working well with the number of farmers we have. I do have to say our farmers in Montgomery County are very supportive of each other and respectful. So I think that they are willing to share and not take up too much space. However, if the space does become a limiting factor, we will end up setting space and time limits. So we will restrict farmers to a certain number of shelves or a certain number of days or weeks that they can use at a time, just to allow enough space for everyone. If we start seeing that the unit becomes dirtier and dirtier, then we may require each user to put in some cleaning time, maybe once a week or however much we think is necessary. But really, those are the only things that we have thought of that, could maybe go wrong and how we would have to address them. And like I said, we haven't experienced really any problems. But I'm very happy to answer any questions about this if we have time now or later at the end of the meeting.
I was thinking after we have our shared equipment, our other two shared equipment speakers speak, we can have time for a few minutes for questions, if that's okay, Natalia, because I know we do have a few questions in the chat. And thank you so much.
That's perfect.
Really, thank you so much. This is just such a good synopsis of a great program.
Happy to do it.
So, as Natalia mentioned, Ivie Baker was contracted to kind of help really get this set up and really get the program going and write the standard operating procedures. Why did we ask Ivie? Because he is the community kitchen program manager at Crossroads Community Kitchen. He has experience establishing a food startup while pursuing an MBA at Howard University, but now he helps all of the Crossroads food entrepreneurs share their equipment, start their business, all this creative problem solving, and is generously sharing his expertise today on the call to give us some insights on sharing equipment at Crossroads Community Kitchen. So great. Yeah. Thank you.
Can everyone hear me okay, Lauren?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Natalia, good to see you again. We had a lot of fun with the Micro Food Hub. And thank you all for the kind words. But I'll try to be brief because I know I want to stick to the time on the agenda. My experience is sort of twofold when it comes to the logistics aspects of sharing food. So just as a disclaimer, I do manage Crossroads Community Kitchen, but we don't take on necessarily a food insecurity initiative there. We do have a farmers market that operates on Wednesdays from April to November, and lots of community initiatives there, which are great. But in the second time, I'll share just a bit about two experiences I have when it comes to food insecurity um, providers. And one of my experiences was some time that I spent with Arcadia, I think it's Arcadia Agricultural Sustainable Center, and it's based out of Fort Belvoir, Virginia. They are on the more formalized side of providing a mobile food market for underserved communities in DC. And my experience there was, as far as equipment, the main things were, I would say, three areas. One, they had a location in Virginia where they had, similar to the Micro Food Hub, several shipping containers that were retrofitted to refrigerate produce and house produce on a pretty much, inventory in, inventory out type of experience on a weekly basis. And what would happen was I would take similar to like a U-Haul type of truck with a lift gate. I would go down from Northeast DC on a Monday and pick up, I don't know, maybe who knows, like pounds and pounds of carrots, kale, okra, whatever was the seasonal produce at the time. And we would house it in a school cafeteria refrigerator and freezer in DC on Perry Street. So we could house, you know, I don't know, tons of whatever it was from. We would focus on like things like beets. I'm trying to think of the specialized products that people love, like I can't think of ginger, like fresh ginger that was grown, things like that. And we would, sell those at various markets that we would participate in DC. But we would also freeze things like fish, beef that was sourced locally, eggs, milk, dairy, things of that nature. Um, but that was more of an operation, and things that were important to take note of, were the transportation. So we had two trucks. We would go down to Fort Belvoir, where veterans were growing the produce and things like that. And that operation, is pretty fluent. It's still going today, which is great. Um, but another operation that I experienced just as a resident, I live in Tacoma Park, Maryland, in Montgomery County. There's more of an independent, free food pantry operation that goes on in our community, but it's a well-run machine. Um, but you kind of the management is a bit invisible. So I'll just share about it, how it works. So some components that are important there are, someone has volunteered to have their driveway be sort of the port, so to speak. And there's not a refrigerated shipping container there. That's more of a shed. And like I would say a 12-foot table that's laid out. But what happens is they get food from Trader Joe's, maybe Giant, maybe some other smaller groceries in the area, and they utilize WhatsApp as a connection for coordination. And they will tell members of the WhatsApp group, which are tend to be people from the neighborhood or a little bit further out, when food will be deposited there. So that could be informal on the weekdays, but every Saturday there's a big lineup of food distribution where you'll see a line, you'll see volunteers, um, stuffed boxes full of produce, definitely eggs, which is, a staple, and whatever's kind of the I guess hot vegetable at the of the day, but there is variety there, and that sovereignty is important in our neighborhood where it's culturally relevant. Our neighborhood is demographics are mixture of Latino. You will see a lot of Ethiopian families, West African families as well. So it's pretty diverse, and the palette can really stretch. So the good thing about that is that I realize is it does take a degree of management, for someone to inform people to know that food is coming and when it's coming and get it out to the group. But again, it is kind of organized on the Saturdays where you need a certain amount of volunteers to make sure you can feed as many families as possible. And from my experience, it is comparable to some house of worship operations that distribute food. So I say all that to say you can have it where it's a lower lift on some of the equipment. I saw someone in the chat talk about forklifts and things like that. It is not to that degree yet. It probably won't grow, from that food pantry. So, they tend to have a lot of volume, but they focus on the variety there. But I do love that it's a community effort. It's kind of governed from community members. So, hey, don't take all of the filet mignon. Save one for someone else. So that has worked and it's been operating for over 2 or 3 years. And you see people pretty satisfied with the operation. And there's not much control needed for pests and things like that. So again, I've seen operations that were more formal, serving more of the city of DC in various markets to something more community based and residential where, hey, we can come together, we can utilize technology and tools that everyone may have access to as far as WhatsApp and the groups, things of that nature. And we can just utilize what best we have with a shed, with a table, and that food doesn't last an hour, when it's distributed there. So that's pretty healthy overall, but I'll stop there because I know we have one more presenter in this area. So
Yeah, no, and I really appreciate you mentioning WhatsApp, Ivy, because the other point was it was Ivy who showed us how to use the food corridor online platform for
yeah.
sharing the equipment in the MoCo Micro Hub. but also pointed out that you need something else, maybe less formal, like a WhatsApp chat ring or something sometimes, which is what they use.
It can go a long
But
way.
yeah.
It makes it accessible for sure.
Yeah, thank you. Well, appreciate it, Ivy. And I know you're available for questions afterwards. We also have one more model that is, I think, a really good model to showcase because farmers also share equipment at the Montgomery County Soil Conservation District. So allow me to introduce John Zawitowski, the district manager of the Montgomery County Soil Conservation District. He basically runs the show over there. He provides administrative and managerial oversight for all the operations and is here to talk about their program where farmers also share equipment throughout the county. So John, take it away.
Okay, I'm going to try to do this. Can you guys hear me?
Mm-hmm.
So I try to click on share entire screen, but that's not working. Maybe it's window. Let me try that. Yeah, okay, that'll work. All right, cool.
Great.
Can everybody see on my screen here?
Yes.
Okay, so yes, I am John Zawitowski. I'm with the Montgomery Soil Conservation District. The district is a political subdivision of the state of Maryland, so we're separate from county government, which is kind of nice in a way because it gives the district a little bit of autonomy between the county government and state government. Our program got started, I've said probably better than 15 years ago now. The equipment that we have, by and large, was acquired through a grant by the Montgomery County Economic Development Corporation. They were interested in trying to figure a way to get some of these types of equipment that would be available to limited resource farmers. And districts across the state traditionally have equipment programs. So it was sort of decided that it was probably the best for the district to be the entity to sort of manage the equipment that was being acquired. So we have several pieces of equipment that's available. You see on here, you'll see we have a Land Pride compact no-till drill. We have a mulch lifter, a John Deere manure spreader, a BCS walk-behind tractor. We have a Dewdrop native seed drill that was actually donated by a landowner here in Montgomery County that no longer needed it and asked if we would be willing to take it over. And of course, free piece of equipment certainly was willing to do. And so we acquired that, and we had this lawn aerator that's the Bluebird Trip Air that we also have available for folks to rent. So the way the program is structured is it's a first come, first served basis. People will ask us or call us or email us, say, hey, we would like to rent a piece of your equipment. And then we start coordinating that, with them. So one of the things that's important with our program is that we have a program administrator. It's not her full-time job, but it's one of the jobs that she has within the district is to manage that program, to make sure all the paperwork is completed. The district only transports one piece of equipment. The rest of them is the farmer has to pick it up. And what we've done is we staged these pieces of equipment across the county at local farms. So we have local farmers that actually are a host to host the area where that equipment's being stored. And that's where we'll direct the farmer to if they need to go pick it up. But the Land Pride no-till drill is the only one that we actually transport. So important to that is while we have an administrator that sort of directs the nuts and bolts of the program, we need a person who's a volunteer to go out and be our person to transport the equipment, do maintenance on the equipment. And we sort of cover that sort of stipend for them for mileage of their vehicle. So we pay for part of that through the proceeds of the rental that we have through that. Important about the program, I would say, is that I saw someone put in there in the chat that, that they needed, insurance when they lend the equipment out. And it's no different here. We do require proof of insurance where the district is added to the certificate holder's insurance policy, primarily for transport. So obviously, if it's in an accident and someone's transporting it and equipment gets damaged, we would make sure there's a way to get the equipment replaced or fixed. We do charge a nominal fee, anywhere from $10 per day, depending on the piece of equipment, up to $25 per day. That money that we collect goes into the fund that we use to basically maintain the equipment, and also sort of pay for our volunteer maintenance person and transporter and trainer. So that fee that we collect goes into our fund basically to keep the equipment maintained. Now, generally what happens is that if it's just normal wear and tear on the equipment, we don't go after like the person that has borrowed it to fix it. We basically make that determination if it was like negligence or neglect on the operator's part that caused the damage. Then we would probably go after them for covering that. But we've never had to do that. So I'll say that right up front, in better than 15 years, we've never had to go and do that. One of the requirements to participate in our program is that you have to be trained on the equipment. And we get people say, "Oh, I'm a farmer. I know how to use this equipment." But it's really for our protection to make sure that they're trained on the equipment at least one time before they rent the equipment. And usually the person that is our maintenance guy is generally the person does the training as well. And he's going to look at things like verify that you have the ability to tow the equipment, right? Last thing you want is to have something get out to your farm, whether you have an undersized tractor or not being able to use it. Those are things that'll come out during the training session to make sure that you basically have what it takes to be able to use the equipment. We do have a rental agreement form that a landowner or farmer will fill out. And Karen, who's my program administrator, she coordinates all the insurance documents. Sometimes we're in a situation where a person's insurance company doesn't understand what's needed, and then we'll provide them examples of kind of what the rider looks like on the insurance policy. So that helps the landowner or the farmer be able to acquire and use the equipment. One thing I will say that I think is really important is that we talk about lessons learned over the years. I always say that when you're renting a piece of equipment, you probably don't care for it as much as it was your own. And we see this a lot where sometimes equipment would come back dirty, or we had no-till drills that are loaded with seed that weren't cleaned. And we've had to go and initiate, if it comes back and it's not cleaned out sufficiently to way we need it for the next person to use it, there's generally sort of a penalty on that to have to pay for us to clean it. So within that rental agreement, it basically shows that you're responsible for keeping the equipment clean after you use it. You're supposed to report if there's any damage to the equipment. You're supposed to report to us right away if there's damage to the equipment. Like I said, in all the years that we've done this, we've never had to go after a farmer basically to have them pay for repairs. We've used the money from the rental agreements that we collect to take care of those costs. Lori, I don't know if there's anything else about that. Oh, also for us too, because obviously we're a conservation agency, right? Our responsibility under state law is to sort of help farmers comply with environmental law, whether it's at the federal level, state level, or county level. And the way we do that is through something called a soil and water conservation plan. It doesn't cost anything for a farmer to get that plan from us. It's basically we have planners that go out and evaluate the land to see if there's any resource concerns that might be popping up on the farm. Like, let's say it's some gully erosion that's in the field that'll just get worse if it's not corrected. Our planners will identify those things and will incorporate that into their plans and try to find the technical assistance to help them fix those things. A lot of times, there are cost share assistance programs that are available to mitigate the cost of repairing those kinds of things in the field. So we'll connect. So this equipment share program kind of provides a nice little nexus for us to introduce them into the conservation work that we do. And the plan is the gateway to get them into our shop. And as I would tell folks that when they come to meet with us, we're not meeting you for the day. We're trying to establish a long-term relationship. districts have been around since the Dust Bowl days. Actually, during Dust Bowl, I tell the story that the dust blew so hard in the Midwest that it started precipitating dust on the nation's capital. And they knew there was a serious problem that was going on. And President Roosevelt called all the governors in across the country and asked them to enact soil and water conservation measures. And they did that through districts. So the district is one of 23 districts in the state of Maryland. There are 3,000 across the country. And we're all charged with basically within our geopolitical boundaries, a bottom-up approach. Instead of something coming down from the top, it's a locally led conservation movement where we have farmers that are on our board and staff that are trained to basically look at what's going on in the land and try to find avenues to correct those issues without forcing someone out of business, right? I always tell our planners that there's many ways to fix a problem. There's the Cadillac way, and there's things that may not cost as much. And they're trained basically to understand those operational needs of the farmer, so that they are working with them within their budget to try to figure out the best method to correct whatever issue might be happening on the farm. So that's basically what I have. If there's anything else, I'll be glad to answer questions.
Great.
That's
Thank
great.
you so much, John. Yeah, and I was going to say, like, I can totally vouch for this program. As a farmer, I borrowed the BCS tractor, and it was a sign-up process, as John was describing, but didn't feel so onerous. Do we have time for the one quick question in the chat that I can identify?
Yeah, please.
Okay, right, and thanks. Thanks for providing that question, Pat. Just a question for Natalia, which I think goes to like what John was saying, where people may not treat the rental equipment exactly as they would treat their own. Pat was pointing out, do you need a security camera?
Yes, I answered the question. I'm trying to answer questions in the chat, but yeah, a security camera would be really good to have. We don't have any outside of the building or inside the building. The building is maintained by the Parks Department, even though we are on county-owned land. So Parks would have to be the one to install the cameras. I think they've said they might at some point, but that might be a long time from now. But yes, that would definitely be a good security measure. And someone else also asked, did we need a permit to place the cold storage unit here? And we did not, because it is on county land and we're a county office. But we did have to get approval from the Parks Department. And if someone else were trying to install a cold storage unit like this one on their own land, they would perhaps need a permit for it. A farmer would not, because if you're farming the property and you're using it to store your own products there, it's an agricultural structure, exempt from a building permit. But like say a church or a food assistance provider, restaurant, someone else, if they had an outdoor unit like this, I think they would need a permit.
Yeah, I think the only thing they would need, Natalia, is trades permits. So if there was electricity hooked up to it, they would need a trade permit basically to have the electricity evaluated, even if it's an ag building. Yeah.
Yes, those are always needed.
And I'll just say, for security cameras, for those of you who have not been up to the agricultural historical park, obviously you have to go out of your way to get there. This is not, in a well-pathed area. So there's some, built-in security already, but yes, those will certainly be concerns for, more less suburban or, farm areas.
And just thank you so much. We intended this to be a conversation starter. There are clearly so many, kind of issues to think through, but these are issues that can be overcome, and these programs are a model for how these can be successful. So we hope to continue that conversation. And thank you so much, Natalia, Ivie, and John, for sharing your programs with this community. I wanted to hand it back to Anne Marie because we have some quick updates to provide.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, actually, we're going to pass it over to Yeti from OFSR to share OFSR dates before we close out.
Thanks, Anne Marie. Beta, I'm not sure if you got my slides.
I did.
But
you want me to share them, or did you?
Yes, please. Sorry, it's not letting me share. It said, yeah.
I just made you a co-host, Yeti, if you prefer to do yours, but Beta is more than happy to run them.
Okay. I think I'll just let Beta run them.
Yep. Perfect.
So I don't delay any longer.
Actually, Eddie, it's not letting me access your slides through the Microsoft.
Okay, that's fine. Let me see if I can do it. 1 second. Let's see. I think. Okay. Can you all see this?
Yep.
Yes. All right. 1 second. Oh no. Can you still see it?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Full screen.
All right. Okay, perfect. Okay, just really quickly. So I just want to go over some upcoming reporting deadlines. Well, one upcoming reporting deadline. So for the food recovery infrastructure grantees, the end cycle report was due 7/31, July 31st. So if you haven't submitted your report yet, then that deadline is passed. So please submit it as soon as possible. And then for our CFA grantees, the report deadline is steadily approaching. It is August 15th, and that includes your monthly reports for May through July, as well as your quarterly programmatic and financial reports. So if you have any questions about what is required, or if you have any issues with your submission, whether that's any dead links or maybe any report documents that might be necessary, just reach out to me or Catherine and we can help you get that information. Okay, and then just really quickly, I want to highlight the impact of the food recovery infrastructure grant programs. So as you can see, $306,000 was awarded to AfriThrive, Nourish Now, Rainbow, and So What Else. These investments were focused on expanding transportation and cold storage capacity, two critical pieces of infrastructure that we have discussed throughout the course of this meeting. The grant period ran from June 30th, 2025 to June 30th, 2026. And just based on the preliminary data we have so far, grantees recovered nearly 15.8 million pounds of food, serving 59,000 households and working with serving 328 organizations across the county. And this is still preliminary data, so these figures might change once the final reporting is complete. But I feel like this data gives us a strong indication that these infrastructure investments are really helping to expand the capacity of our food recovery network. And then lastly, the Community Food Assistance Grant Program grant renewal process is currently underway. So for all FY26 CFA grantees that have maintained their reporting and performance compliance, they are eligible for renewal. And we're going to continue to build out the OFSR grants page so that it can continue to be a resource for our grantees and the broader community. So it's going to have grant-related information, impact highlights, award updates, community feedback, and also ways for you to connect with us if you have any questions. So we'll continue to share updates as the FY27 renewal process moves forward. Really quick, so just 1 minute over, but that's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Yeti. And thank you to all of our speakers, to all of you for joining us today. Just a reminder for those of you who weren't on at the start of the call, our next meeting in this space will be in recognition of Food Waste Recovery Week. I'm sure I'm getting that title wrong, but I'm not going to go find my notes again. But that is going to be on October 1st. We are going to have an afternoon tour of Nourish Now, followed by a happy hour later that afternoon, and hope to see many of you there. And then hope you all have a good rest of your week.
Thank you so much, y'all.
Thank you.
See you later.
Thank you. Bye.